What is up, viewer out there watching this video? Arcs back here, bringing you this time another episode of Why I Want. This time, we're going to be taking a look at Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who is a very obviously sounding Finnish player. He's a player who I think the Vancouver Canucks would be very lucky to take. And not because he's one of those players who I think is not going to be there when the Canucks pick 7th overall in this year's draft. A lot of you guys might have been thinking, why do you want him? Why are you saying that we'd be lucky to get him? He's going to be available at 7. Yeah, I know that. If we take a look at where Kotkaniemi is ranked by different scouting media outlets, if we go check things out over here, Kotkaniemi is rated as highly as number 10 by some NHL scouts and parties. Some have him in the mid-teens, which is seeming to be the majority of these voters, and some guys have him as low as 22. So there's a big gap in where Kotkaniemi feels like he's going to be drafted this upcoming draft. But the reason I say that the Canucks would be lucky to take him is because if the Canucks drafted Kotkaniemi, it would mean by default that we traded down. We're not taking Kotkaniemi at 7. That is not what I'm asking here. This is almost the same scenario as Joe Veleno, because I made a Why I Want video about Veleno as well. I think that he's very underrated as a prospect this upcoming draft. And so, if we take Kotkaniemi, then that automatically means we made a trade to acquire, whether that be more assets for a trading down scenario, or an entirely new first-round pick, wherein we just traded some of our other assets away. Now, what exactly is the deal here with Kotkaniemi? Why is it that I'm asking for him? I'm not asking for Ty Smith or Barrett Hayden or any of them. Why am I asking for Kotkaniemi? Why do I want him? Well, Kotkaniemi is a guy who already has a good frame. Let's be honest here. He's 6'2", 190 pounds. So he's got himself a pretty established body that definitely could succeed going into the NHL. And it's something that he's blessed with at 17 years of age, because we can't say the same about a lot of these other prospects. If we take a look at Kotkaniemi's draft year, what did he do in his draft year? Well, he played for the Porin Assat over in the Liiga. This is the Spades team. And Kotkaniemi was a player who immediately, right off the bat, was relied upon heavily by this Assat team. He was already playing with the big boys, the ones up there in the highest rank of play. This is the top league in Finland. He was playing in the same tier of guys like Miro Heiskanen, for example. And as a 17-year-old coming into this league in the first year, he got himself a whopping 29 points in 57 games. 10 goals for this young center right here. And that was good enough for third on his team in points. The guy who led his team in points, by the way, was a defender. And the guy who was second with 35 points, Antoine Lagunière, is listed as a winger-center kind of player. So just a forward, basically. So it's very easy to see that Kotkaniemi right off the bat was utilized as one of the more important players playing in his first year at 17 years old at the highest level of Finnish League hockey. And the Assat, don't get me wrong, they weren't like a super good team this year either. They were actually really, really close to 500. In a total of 60 games played, they won 23, lost 25 in regulation, so they're negative in terms of regulation games, but they had 7 overtime wins and 5 overtime losses, evening things out at 30 wins, 30 losses. They ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs, and considering the fact that the team in total was a -14 in terms of goal differential, it's easy to take a look at Kotkaniemi and just understand how his -1 overall ranking is impressive. Because a lot of the Assat players were very negative this year. You got a lot of -12s, 8s, 6s, and 9s. Kotkaniemi was a -1, which really puts into perspective how he's being utilized better, he's playing better than a lot of the guys already established at that level. It's one of those things where if Kotkaniemi played in the Liiga next year, you know that he'd be even better. He had a great rookie season over there, playing for the Assat, at 17 years old with a good frame. So, if he stepped into that league one more time, you can totally bet that he'd have a much better season. But, of course, his next season whether that be with an AHL team or with the Assat again, or albeit even the NHL, he's a player who's got what it takes to compete. And a lot of people are taking notice of that, which is why all these scouting reports are talking about how he's a really smart player. He's a two-way guy who can play the two-way guy, but also has really, really good puck handling skills. He's a guy who exhibits a really strong vigor in everything that he does out there on the ice. His forechecking is incredible. He's able to steal the puck from guys, and his confidence with the puck is exquisite. He's able to make moves, find his way into the slot, open himself up, take good, high-quality percentage shots, and he's able to score quite a few goals like that. A lot of his highlights this season, if you watch them, you see a strong player. Just a player who you want out there on the ice. And Kotkaniemi is exactly that. And to top it all off, his back-checking, his defensive IQ, it's great as well. I've gotten a lot of comments to talk about Kotkaniemi, and a lot of them highlight some really interesting things. Kotkaniemi's being compared to Anze Kopitar by some. And there's a lot of people who are watching the Assat who are saying that he's one of the best young players they've had in a really long time, which says quite a bit about Kotkaniemi and the things he's able to do in the ice. Let's face it, if he was playing for a better team, let's say the Karpat, the champions this year in the Liga, or if he played on a stacked TPS with Olli Juolevi and Petrus Palme, or if he played on the Tappara, if he played on any one of these better teams, his production would have been much better as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the Assat was totally the worst team in the league. They did make the playoffs after all. But they were a negative team, and a team that in regulation couldn't get things done. So, what can we expect from Kotkaniemi? Well, what we can expect is a strong, fast player. He's not necessarily agile in that his explosiveness and transition game from flat foot to active foot, it isn't really the best. But he's got such a good drive, a good work ethic in that he's able to make things happen despite this setback. This is different from Evan Bouchard. Evan Bouchard was a player who I said was lazy, and who I said didn't really have the best skating on top of that. He succeeded because he was able to slow the game down at the OHL level despite having moments where he got outskated by a few guys. Kotkaniemi has a good work ethic, and this is why I see a good player in this kid, and this is why I want him for the Canucks. Because if he truly lives up to his hype like some people have him, some people say he's the best pure center in this draft, hands down. It's incredible to think what he's capable of, and just the discrepancy between where we think he's going to go and where he's actually going to go. 10th overall, 15th overall, 22nd overall. And if the Vancouver Canucks grab him, that means that we traded down. That means either we traded down or we acquired a second first-round pick. Because we're not taking Kotkaniemi with the 7th overall pick, that's for sure. But if we leave the first round of the draft with Jesperi Kotkaniemi, that means that we drafted later than 7th. Who knows if it means that we dropped from 7th down to whatever we drafted him at, or if we acquired a second first. It means that we did something. And that's what we need. Maybe we go down, trade with the Islanders, grab one of their 2 first-round picks, and we grab Kotkaniemi there. Maybe we'll trade our 7th pick with other assets over to the Islanders for both of their consecutive picks. We'll take Kotkaniemi and a guy like Ty Smith. Who knows? There's so many things that can happen at the draft, and the fact remains that we need to do things. We need to make trades. And if we get Kotkaniemi on the team, that means that we made trades. Because Kotkaniemi coming to the Vancouver Canucks would be the result of action. And this is why I want Kotkaniemi on the team. Indeed, he's a great player who's got a great upside, and a lot of people are putting some pretty unrealistically high expectations on this kid. But the fact is, he's done so much he could do to deserve it. And there's a reason why a lot of people are saying these things about him. It's because he's good. But that's not the only reasons why I want him. Because if we grabbed him for the Vancouver Canucks, it means that we made a good effort to try and further our rebuild going forward. Kotkaniemi, yes, he's a good player. I'd like him on the Canucks. But if we get him, it means that we're doing other things too. And that's really all there is to it. Same thing goes with Joe Veleno. We're not snagging Veleno up at 7th overall unless Benning is able to make something incredibly weird happen. You could try to argue the same thing about Pettersson last year, but Pettersson was in a draft that was not really considered to be a good draft. Like, outside of Patrick and Hischier, this draft was filled with a few question marks. So grabbing Pettersson at 5th overall when he was projected to go 9th, it's not really that much of a stretch. This, however, it kinda is, which is why I'd be willing to trade down. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plus, Gaming, and bye.